Wholesaling is 90% sales and 10% everything else. However, there's one thing that keeps good salespeople absolutely broke. So today, what I'm going to be covering is how to use your sales skills to make the most money possible. So here's the thing. Your survival brain wants you to go where it's easy. It wants you to go where the leads are cheap and where the contracts are very easy to get. There's not a ton of competition. However, that's usually the one thing that keeps you broke, because where there's no competition, there's typically not buyers. It's not the right market. There's a reason that there's no competition. I was watching a video of Hermosi coaching someone the other day, and he was talking to someone that was in the Middle East going after doctors. And he said he didn't want to go to the US because the US is so competitive. However, he was running out of people to sell. And so Hermosi said, dude, do you believe that you are good? The guy said, yeah. He goes, well, go where the competition is and just crush them. And it's the exact same thing with wholesaling. I see this all the time where wholesalers go into markets where there's no buyers, there's no competition, there's a ton of inventory. And yeah, it's really easy for them to get contracts, but they never end up being the people that get to $150,000, $300,000, $500,000 a month. All of those people go where the competition is, and they dominate because they perfect their sales process. So I'm going to break down with my goal versus actual calculator the numbers on going to a competitive market versus going to one that's really easy to get contracts. So I use this goal versus actual calculator to game plan with all of my students. I know that if I want to hit $100,000 in revenue, which is $300,000 in a quarter, and these are my metrics here on the right, I need to get 57 leads, 37 qualified, 22 appointments, 20 offers, 5 contracts, and 4 closed deals per month. I can also see what my average deal size is. I can see what my return on ad spend is, lead to deal, so forth and so on. These are the gold standard industry averages. You want to shoot for a 65% lead to qualified, 60% qualified to appointment, 90% offer, 25% contract, and 80% closed deal. And I'm going to show you the importance of going where it's competitive, even if the leads are more expensive. So the average deal size for the US right now, it's actually $22,500. That's the average. And the average cost per lead, that really depends on your market. So here's what I see all too often is you have someone that's in a non-competitive market. They're nationwide in all of the rural areas, and they're getting leads for roughly $60, right? Maybe even cheaper. And their lead to qualified is good. Their appointment set is good. Their offer to contract is good. But usually their contract to close is absolutely terrible. They're somewhere around 20%, right? And they think that that's fine. Now, what also happens is their average deal size is really small as well. Typically, they're somewhere around $7,000 to $12,000. So let's just put that as an average of $10,000. That means that you are at a 2.9x return on ad spend. It also means that if you want to get to $100K a month, you need to get 50 contracts, which is absolutely insane to get 50 contracts to hit $100,000 per month. Now, even if your close rate is better, let's say you have an amazing close rate because you're in a market where there's no competition. So you're at 35%. You still need to get 50 contracts to be able to close 10 deals at a $10,000 average deal size. And your ROAS is only a 4.1. So let's look at the other extreme. The other extreme is you go into a market where it's really competitive. Let's say your close rate drops significantly because there's a lot more people that are offering on those properties. There's also a lot more sophisticated investors there. So let's say that gets you all the way to 20%. But because you're in an area where there are buyers, now your contract to close goes to 60%, which still isn't even that good. 60% means 40% of your deals are falling out. So the best case scenario with this model is you're getting $60 leads, your average deal size is $10,000. It's taking you 50 contracts and you have a 4.1x ROAS, which honestly isn't terrible, except for the fact that this is impossible to manage. 50 contracts with $100,000 in revenue, you're going to have so many acquisitions managers, it doesn't even make sense. And this is if your close rate is really, really good. Typically, people that are doing this, their close rate is around 25%. So they're closer to a 2.9. So let's say that your cost per lead ends up increasing by 50% by going in a market that's a little bit more competitive. So you're at $100, right? However, your contract to close, because you are in a better market, goes up to the industry average of about 65%. And even if your close rate dips, so instead of locking them up at 25%, you're locking up at 20, you are still better off from a ROAS perspective. You have higher leads. Even if your average deal size didn't change, which it does, you're already at a 4.6. Now, the beauty of this is if you go where the competition is, your average deal size should increase as well. You should get closer to that industry average, which is about $22,500. Our average deal size when we were in Southern California was $50,200. That was the average deal size over an entire entire year. We would have multiple deals a year where we would get over 6-figure assignments. And so the best part about this is that now you only have to get 7 contracts. That's roughly 2 contracts per week, which you can do by yourself or just one acquisitions manager. It's a lot easier on Dispo. You only have to manage 4 transactions and you are much more profitable. Even if your cost per lead goes up to $300, you are still profitable at a very high lead cost. So let's talk about how to actually identify those markets. Now, the most obvious way to look at it is look where the big metros are. If you look at Southern California, Miami, New York, San Francisco, those are going to be competitive markets just because they are giant metros. Now, there are other markets that are not as big, but there's just a ton of investor activity. I'm talking about Atlanta. I'm talking about Phoenix. I'm talking about Oklahoma City. These are all ultra competitive markets. There's a ton of people buying there. So if this is you and this resonates with you, the first thing that I would figure out is how good am I at sales? If you're not good at sales, you have one of 2 options. Stay in a market where you can lock up contracts easy and you have a headache of a business, or improve your sales process. Get really good at sales so that way you can go where the big dogs are, you can compete, and you can win. And if you want to get better at sales, we have an advanced group where we have 5 sales trainings every single week. We have an Ask Me Anything call on Monday where you can bring all of your hottest opportunities, role play them with me, and I'll show you exactly how to close them. On Tuesday, we break down our exact sales process step by step. Wednesday, you can role play. Thursday, we have an objection handling call. And Friday, we will listen to your calls live on our call review to give you the exact feedback that you need to be able to improve. We also went out and hired one of the top wholesalers in the country who built a business up to $2 million per month, where he talks about the lessons that he learned to be able to get there. We have a Dispo call, we have an underwriting call, we have a marketing call, and everything that you need to be able to take your business to the next level. So if you want to apply, there's a link in the description. And if you're not quite ready for that, we do new videos like this every single week. So make sure you like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.